Good afternoon or evening, everybody, and welcome back to another tropical forecast here by Adrian's Weather Forecast. And it's going to be another big update on the tropics for the Atlantic as well, overall, keeping a close eye on the Caribbean and portion of the United States. So, we do still have PTC6 likely to become a tropical storm very soon. So, finally, going to get letter F. As well, another interesting AOI or area of interest right now is Invest 95L. We do now have a 10-20%, and it's already an invest, and it has a very interesting track here overall, looking that this could very well become something very interesting if it has a conducive environment. So overall, we're keeping a very close eye on this as well, behind on a way behind PTC6. But without further ado, let's get in the forecast. So here's looking at the actual 5-day tropical weather outlook. And this is look what they do have so far. The latest information on PTC6. So it's now a 90-90 for 48 hours and 5 days, which it was initially 80-80 yesterday at the basically exact same time. It is now moving as well west-northwest at a faster movement. Now going west-northwest at basically 18 miles an hour. So it's not the slowest moving storm. So if it does go over land traction like this, it should not be the biggest problem. Obviously, it will still weaken, obviously lose a lot of progress. How it really wouldn't like fall apart completely, even though there is still mountainous terrain. But overall, it's still moving west-northwest at 18 miles an hour. Still has a maximum sustained wind of 35 miles an hour, and as well minimal central pressure at 1,012 millibars. So it's kind of more of in a higher pressure environment. And obviously now we have a new AOI, which was located and actually marked just around 100 or 200 miles off portions of Africa. And that's exactly where we're seeing a pretty interesting tropical wave with associated with as well a few tropical thunderstorms and as well overall some showers. And it's going to be very interesting as it moves throughout the westward across the tropical Atlantic within around 15 to 20 miles an hour. So it's going to definitely be going over some pretty warm waters, obviously somewhat conducive environments. This can as well be on my watch. I'm not going to rule out this without a doubt, because things are starting to get very interesting in the tropics as we go further into August. So here's now the latest look here at the 2 p.m. advisory here for PTC6 here. So we now have tropical storm warnings for all Puerto Rico, and as well as some tropical storm warnings for eastern portions of Dominican Republic. So we do have obviously an area to watch out for tropical storm winds actually over land. So keeping a very close eye on portions of Puerto Rico, as well watching out portions of Hispaniola for possibly some gusty winds. And overall, the big time flooding we are really watching out for is going to be the flash flooding, and overall looking at for some possibly some mudslides. So as you can see, we are no longer really expecting, according to the National Hurricane Center, for a potential threat to actually go over the actual coast of Florida. It's actually expected to now go a little bit further northward, kind of doing what Irma did. Obviously, Irma kind of just skinned Cuba. That's exactly what we're going to be really watching out for. So if that were to occur, we would definitely have to really watch out possibly for some intensification after the land interaction with portions of Puerto Rico, as well as interaction with portions of Turks and Caicos and Dominican Republic and overall Hispaniola. So after kind of all of this land interaction, it's obviously going to lose a lot of progress and overall lose a lot of convection, just overall structure, and as well the chance for drier in getting within this actual storm. And so the actual surface low will be quite high. However, it's going to really now get out of all that trouble once it actually goes between Cuba and portions of the Bahamas. And it's going to go through these really warm waters as well with decently deep ocean heat content. And it's exactly why the National Hurricane Center gets us up to already 60 miles an hour once it gets to the portions of the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So the next 3 days, I'm really watching out for this to be a Caribbean threat, some big time flooding specifically for Puerto Rico and Hispaniola, as well overall some wind threats. So for Turks and Caicos at the moment, I wouldn't rule out the possibility if we do get a few actually we just got an update, I believe. So now we do now have tropical storm watches in effect for portions of northern Hispaniola. We actually just got an update at the 5 p.m. update. So the 5 p.m. update just came out right now. So we now have tropical storm watches for portions of northern Hispaniola, including northern Haiti and northern Dominican Republic. However, like I was going to say, I do expect possibly tropical storm watches to be issued very soon across portions of the north central Cuban coast, as we are expecting this to regain strength as it is going to be remaining off the really warm waters of that region. Not looking at for Miami or really southeast Florida landfall. However, we could possibly see a landfall, kind of what we were first expecting for Elsa in the very first advisories, possibly a landfall there for Key West, and then we're going to be really watching out for portions of Apalachicola and the Big Bend region. So here's a current look here at the actual water vapor and overall, just looking at how much water vapor we're seeing within both 95L all the way back here within the African wave right there off the monsoon. And then obviously there we have PTC6 actually not looking that bad at all. And actually, neither is Invest 95. Actually, Invest 95L looks very, very good. If I'm being completely honest, it actually has a lot of overall precipitated water. There's actually just a lot of evaporation going on there. So I think it's definitely getting and taking advantage of those really warm waters, and overall the amount of moisture. You can kind of see a lot of that dry air kind of dipping in within this region right here. See a lot of dry air kind of between both 95 and PTC6. So we're going to really watch out if we can actually get a good amount of moisture, obviously off Africa and even a little bit maybe off South America, to maybe, I guess, make this environment more conducive as this storm goes westward. But as well, looking pretty good for PTC6, getting a lot of overall precipitation going on there, a lot of overall evaporation going on. So this thing's looking pretty good. Obviously, we saw a lot of convection bursts, and we're continuing to see that early today, and obviously continuing the afternoon hours. A lot of banding, kind of see we are seeing a lot of storms within these bandings, and kind of see overall a lot of that with those water vapor. But overall, this thing's looking quite good, and it's going to continue to possibly get better structure before it actually makes landfall on portions of Hispaniola. Here's an actual visual here of what on satellite imagery what this PTC6 looks like, and it's actually looking pretty darn good. You can obviously see there is a surface low kind of within a lot of that convection. The storm's continue to move west-northwestward at a decent rate here, so it is obviously passed and made landfall across the Lesser Antilles. So we did see a decent amount of rain there. We're starting to see now some more cloud cover from this large, thick banding that's actually from the east here. So we're kind of seeing a lot of convection really stretching out of the actual surface low itself and within the actual main area of the convection. But here's an overall look. See some really strong counterclockwise, some good counterclockwise flow within this actual vorticity overall. So things got overall good structure. There's still a little problem. There obviously is still drier kind of towards the northwest, and as well towards, or actually to the northeast, towards the east here. And there's gonna be definitely a concern here if there's gonna be any drier coming within this region here. So this will be the best area for any SAL to kind of dip within it. However, there is a good thing that there's gonna be some nice amount of moisture kind of coming off South America as this gets closer to Colombia and northern portions there of Venezuela. We're gonna be seeing a lot of moisture kind of restarting the storm further far into the Caribbean near the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos area. That's gonna allow for this storm to really get its act together. Let's now get a look here at the actual convection forecasting, or IR forecast, basically. So we can see an area of convection burst kind of actually associated and actually within the actual low pressure itself. And there you see the small areas of convection kind of coming from that main banding cavern. It's kind of falling apart a little bit and dissipating. And that could possibly because maybe we are seeing a little bit of dryer actually getting within the actual wave, because obviously this thing's kind of far away from the actual main low pressure itself and the surface low. But there are, I mean, like I said, there is a lot drier kind of towards the east and northeast, so it's most likely a reason for why this banding and convection is really dissipating a lot, and it is most likely that dry air. Overall, it's not looking too shabby. We did see a good diurnal maximum this morning here, had a really good structure, and it's actually looking pretty good at the moment as well. So overall, just can't let the possibility for maybe a diurnal maximum as we go into overnight to tomorrow early morning. So it's going to be very interesting how this plays out. However, the National Hurricane Center does expect it to be expected to be a tropical storm as it goes just to the southwest of Puerto Rico. So since Puerto Rico is going to be kind of towards the northeast quadrant, I believe southern and southwestern Puerto Rico could very well get some pretty good winds. That's exactly why we do have tropical storm warnings there. But overall, the storm's not looking too shabby at all. Here's a look here at the actual 18Z PTC6 model track guidance, and a lot of these obviously all of these taking it towards portions of Dominican Republic. So it's basically guaranteed we are going to be getting an Eastern Dominican Republic landfall, and it's going to go basically throughout all of Hispaniola, including northern Haiti. Actually, northern Haiti is pretty mountainous, and you see the majority kind of taking it out north of Cuba. And actually, for those who saw my video yesterday, a ton we're taking it through Hispaniola and both Cuba as well. So if that were to happen, it would have been very hard to recover. However, again, either way, it's going to be going over some pretty warm waters after the landfall in Hispaniola. And it's going to go, oh, we'll have a pretty long distance between really northern Haiti right here towards the Keys. It's going to have a pretty long time to get to act together. So I wouldn't rule out the possibility if this does become a strong tropical storm for its peak. And I think the peak will occur in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. And I've been saying that quite a lot, that I do expect anywhere from 65 to possibly even 70-mile-an-hour peak for a portion of the Florida landfall. So really watching out for a portion of Big Bend, and that includes Apalachicola, portion of Panama City, Mexico Beach, obviously where Michael may landfall. Michael Beach, that's exactly where I'm going to be watching out for this landfall. And that's most likely going to allow for the storm to go into northeast Georgia, where I am. So I may get a few storms and actually another tropical system this year. I believe I got Claudette this, not Claudette. Yeah, I got, wait, no, it's not Claudette. That was 2020. I got, shoot, how do I not remember the 2021 sea storm? Wow, I'm actually blanking out right now because I know Claudette was not this year. That was last year in 2020. Gosh, I don't know why I do not remember the 2021 sea storm, but it's gonna come back to me in the video. I can guarantee it will be it will come back to me. But you get the point where it's gonna go through northeast Georgia and possibly eventually end up to portion of the Carolinas. So overall, it's going to be very interesting for 3 days. It should be out back in the warm water within the next 3 days after to kind of over water for a little bit, maybe a day and a half or so. And that's going to possibly make landfall for the Keys. We are not looking at a landfall for Miami, Homestead, West Palm Beach, anywhere near that. It's obviously going to kind of stay south of Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas. And they're really watching out for possibly a decent north-central turn. So it's most likely going to stay towards Florida in the looks like kind of more the Panhandle region, and it's not looking like it's going to do the CMC what it showed earlier with like the New Orleans region or Mobile or Gulfport. Wait, guys, I just realized you guys are probably going to really call me dumb. But I just realized Claudette was this year and that Cristobal was last year. I don't know why I mixed both of those two up. So oh my gosh, I am completely blanking out. I don't, you guys are gonna really gonna call me stupid for that. I don't know why. I know Claudette seemed right, but for some reason I thought that was last year. I don't know why. It was obvious Cristobal happened last year. Holy cow. So please don't make fun of me in the comments, guys. I know I made obviously it wasn't a big mistake, but it was a funny mistake here. So I really apologize for that very funny mistake. But yes, it was Claudette that obviously went into northeast Georgia. So looking at 45-mile-an-hour landfall, 4 portions there, eastern Hispaniola, and then expected to weaken back to a depression at 35 miles an hour due to the mountainous terrain. And then it's going to regain strength as it goes just north of Cuba at 40 miles an hour, then 45 miles an hour, then a massive jump to 60 miles an hour. So like I did say, I would not rule out the possibility for a strong tropical storm landfall for a portion of the Big Bend and portion of the Florida Panhandle. So let's now get a look at the actual model intensity guidance here, the 18Z update. And you can see the majority are kind of having this kind of staying a little bit before becoming a tropical storm. But we do have a lot of them, like 98% or 97% are basically showing this becoming a tropical storm. But you can kind of see they kind of calmed down a little bit when it comes to the intensity. I believe yesterday the majority were actually getting it way up here, like near basically category 1. But now a few have kind of calmed down and taken it more towards possibly maybe a 60-mile-an-hour tropical storm. But like I said, I would not rule out the possibility if we get to 65, 70, just considering how warm and overall how good the conditions are in the eastern Gulf of Mexico and how long it actually has before it actually touches the Key West. And even the Keys will not affect that storm at all. So basically it has all the way from after Haiti to go all the way to the Florida Panhandle. And that's plenty of time to get to a 65, 70-mile tropical storm, especially since it's so far south and as well west at the trough, and really the PV stream really won't affect it that much. But overall, you can kind of see a few are getting becoming a tropical storm by the next 12 hours or so, which is pretty reasonable, while a few are kind of going to get it a little bit later, really after 48 hours or so. But overall, looking at a pretty upward trend, looking at a moderate tropical storm. If you are still hinting toward a higher end tropical storm, and we do have 3 getting it to a category 1, and actually, of course, the NNIC wants it to a category 4. What's new? Here's looking at Invest 95L, and actually Invest 95L is actually not looking too shabby at all. I mean, look how, considering it's a new Invest, it was just labeled today. This thing is an absolute beauty. I mean, this thing is an absolute beauty. I mean, there's already banding on this actual convection and initiation. So, I mean, I'm not. This thing actually looks pretty good. I mean, if you were to ask me which one was PTC6 and which one was Invest 95L, I'd probably say this was PTC6, to be honest. I mean, this looks like a pretty well-built tropical storm, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, we have a ton of convection burst already. So that's exactly why I'm very, very interested within this actual system itself, because it's already looking pretty darn good. Has a decent environment ahead of it. I mean, this thing's got a ton of cloud cover. Let's actually now look at the actual IR forecast, see how much of it that's actually convection itself, and how much there's actually initiation. But overall, we're seeing a lot of cloud cover, and obviously a lot of colder cloud tops associated within the system. However, it's kind of associated within a very, very small region. So all that cloud cover you see, a lot of that is not even convection. Most of it's just obviously just regular cloud cover. Because obviously it's a tropical, it's off a tropical wave. There's going to be a lot of cloud cover within associated with it. But overall, that convection is not that large. Because if it were that large, we'd be talking about a completely different storm. Let's now get a look at the overall Invest 95L GEPS track. So obviously, since it's such an early invest and it was just issued not too long ago, we don't actually have the model the guidance release, so we can only kind of look at the overall model guidances. Where obviously the GEPS. So actually, GEPS kind of wants to have this going kind of due west, actually, not taking a out to sea turn, not going to the Carolinas, not going kind of like this surprisingly, actually taking just kind of really due west. And that would, obviously, if this were to verify, this would be very interesting for portions of the Caribbean, and as well portions of Florida, because this is very interesting because a few are already getting it below 1,000 millibars, and actually taking it very similar. So if actually this one track is taking it right where PT6 is about to make a landfall, so it's going to be very interesting if we get 2 landfalls in a very 2 landfalls very soon in a very, I guess, small time frame in a very similar area. And then obviously the intensity guidances for the first advisory, the first updates, I guess you'd say, for Invest go crazy for intensity guidances. So do not freak out when all of these show Cat 1, and like almost all of them except one show Category 2, and one already has Category 3. This thing definitely has potential. I think it definitely could be a very interesting system, but does not mean it's going to actually verify like that, obviously. I mean, we've seen so many, almost every single time we have a storm or an invest that's kind of forming far in the MDR anywhere, the intensity guidance is always mental. It is always mental when it's the first update, when it's the first update on intensity guidance. I mean, they all show Category 1, Category 3, Category 2, and then obviously slowly after each update, it kind of calms down. So I can guarantee by 0Z, the majority will only just show Cat 1, high-end tropical storm. I mean, obviously, 1 may continue to say a Category 4, just how stupid it is, but more models will start to jump on it. But the 3 out of 4 do have it forming within 36 hours, while 1 has it forming within the next 3 days. So it's actually very interesting. This thing can very well jump highly in confidence. As of now, there's really not much model support. But again, it's just became an invest. It also just became an AOI. So the fact that it's already an invest and it's only a 1020 is definitely saying something. Let's take a look here a little bit further or more model guidances. So let's actually now look at what we're looking at the ECENS right now. So obviously they're already quickly picking up on 2 low pressures. So in the next 24 hours, there we have PTC6, and there we have Invest 95L. You see a lot of the models, the guidance is actually already jumping on 95L quite quickly overall. You see a ton of models picking up obviously on PTC6. So let's actually now further into the next 30 hours, and obviously there we have it making landfall there, PTC6 for a portion of the Dominican Republic, And then we still have a few now, kind of obviously taking it Invest 95L further westward. The majority are kind of having it basically at around anywhere from basically 20 to 30 knots to possibly 30 to 40 knots for the max wind in knots. And obviously now as we get further to the next 54 hours, there we have obviously a ton of lines that are anywhere from 20 to 30 to 30, 40 knots for PR and Dominican Republic. And then basically at that point, we're going to be seeing here this low pressure PTC6 at its point, probably TS Fred over water, since we'll be looking at a pretty warm overall track here overall. And then at 54 hours, there we still have Invest 95L, still kind of very similar, anywhere from 1,006, maybe 1,007 millibars. And as we now go with the next around 78-ish hours, there we have it kind of just going due west. Not much of a really an impressive track or anything like that. So if it's going to continue to go due west, we will have to really keep a close eye on for a portion of the very similar areas that are getting hit by PTC6 at the moment, and actually see a little bit of greens now getting anywhere from 40 to 50 knots. So obviously, 78 hours possibly looks like the ECNS is actually taking this to a tropical storm, and now we actually continue to see these greens trending now 1,005 millibars, 1,002 millibars, 1,004 millibars. So this actually could very well be very interesting for the Lesser Antilles and as well overall portion of the Caribbean. And obviously there you see a ton of the model guidance is kind of keeping PT6 north of Cuba and south of Florida, while we do have a few of them taking it, actually making a landfall into the West Palm Beach and as well the Miami area, but the majority are kind of keeping it, making landfall near Key West, possibly Southwest Florida. But look at these colors here. I mean, a widespread are actually getting 40, 50, and actually a ton of actually getting 50 to 60 knots for Invest 95L as it gets into the U.S. Virgin Islands. And we do actually have one getting to 60, 70 knots. So it's actually showing a ton of actually strengthening for actually a lot of confidence for Invest 95L, getting 989 millibars, 985, 988. That's very, very interesting. You kind of see the majority, though, of these model guidance is kind of taking a landfall for PT6 anywhere from possibly the trend there from Alabama, Mobile region to portions of Big Bend. So overall, going to be really overall watching the Northeast Gulf of Mexico, and as well really watching out for a portion of the Eastern Caribbean and Central Caribbean, again, for possibly another upcoming threat with a new area of interest. Here's now a look at the actual latest 12D GFS, and obviously there we have the GFS already. Here we have PTC6 right there, area with closed isobars indicating some stronger winds and tightening wind, and as well there we have Invest 95L associated with that latest area of interest along that easterly wave there. So there we have GFS kind of having PTC6 basically at 1,007, maybe possibly around 1,006 millibars as it makes landfall into Eastern Dominican Republic within 24 hours or so. And then there we have 1,012 millibars for 1,012 millibars there associated with Invest 95L. There you can kind of see kind of that African easterly wave right there. There you see as well that strong ridge possibly bringing in a lot of drier and as well overall dry conditions. So it's going to be very close within this actual easterly wave, but definitely something to keep a very, very close eye on. As we now continue on, the GFS really does not really have that low pressure really strengthening as much as what the ECNS was having, but they still have it really at 1,012 millibars for the next 96 hours or so. And then the GFS has PTC6 at 1,009 millibars as it continues between Cuba and the Bahamas for August 14th. And actually, GFS has it making landfall for the Miami Homestead region at 1,006 millibars on the evening of August 8th. And then obviously there we have it kind of making a second landfall there for Florida Panhandle, but really not much concerning, nothing really much concerning with the actual Invest 95L according to the GFS. Let's now get a look here at what the CMC is indicating. So there's a CMC having Invest, or actually PTC6, and there's Invest 95L. So obviously CMCs continue to show these. And the CMC really has nothing at all forming, not really much anything whatsoever, not even really a low pressure at all for the Invest 95L. So like I said, this gotta be something really, it's something very interesting to keep a close eye on, that's for sure. And then CMC now has PTC6 making landfall near the Key Largo, possibly between Key West as well at 1,006 millibars, and making landfall at 990, or actually it's going to get as low as 993 millibars, and that's definitely not super unreasonable. I mean, I don't really see in 1,005, 1,006 millibar landfall for the U.S. I could easily see 993 or so for the landfall. It's actually taking it more towards Pensacola and ports into Mobile, and then taking it further into Alabama and Northeast Georgia as we go into August 17th, August 18th. So CMC is showing more confidence within 90 or PTC6 and actually stronger strength, while the really your GCMC is really lacking on when it comes to 95L. Let's now look at the European vorticity. So there we have some good vorticity signature there for PTC6, and as well even some good vorticity, but less tight or not obviously less expansive vorticity signature there for MVS 95L. And then you can kind of see actually GFS has something very interesting here for August 14th. There's PTC6, possibly Fred. And then there we have MVS 95L, and that's actually a decent signature, and then obviously decent one as well towards Puerto Rico. And then we see that really good, possibly landfall there for a portion of the Florida Panhandle. Let's now get a look here what the actual 12Z HWRF is showing here, and it's definitely doing the typical HWRF thing. And actually, it actually is making the HWRF actually has it making landfall PTC6 in the middle of Puerto Rico, like central Puerto Rico, going through the middle of the island. That's obviously very, very unlikely. Obviously, we already have a track board. It's going to most likely kind of go south in the portions there of eastern Hispaniola. So it's obviously very unlikely that it actually makes a landfall there in Puerto Rico. And then we have, and due to that being so far north, the HWRF has it completely avoiding Hispaniola. That's most likely why it has it going so strong, because it completely avoids it completely avoids Haiti and Dominican Republic, because it makes landfall so far north of Puerto Rico. So it's most likely why the HWRF has it so strong, because it already has it at 1,003 millibars for 33 hours, and at 48 hours at 1,000 millibars near Turks and Caicos, and then 997 millibars there as it kind of interacts with land, mainly the Bahama region. And then 987 for 70 hours for 3 days, 985, 983 landfall there for the big island of the Bahamas, getting as low as 972 for 93 hours, getting very close to the Miami Fort Lauderdale region, as well, watching out for the Hollywood Beach region. Really watching out for that, and making landfall at 973 millibars for eastern Florida. And this would be just a pretty good storm, probably looking at a category 2 right here. Very good banding. That's obviously not going to happen. And that's making landfall there for a portion of the Florida Panhandle near Big Bend, where the Chattahoochee actually, where the mouth of the Chattahoochee is. So let's actually look at the actual relative vorticity, though. I mean, I can just bet this is a massive massive way there, but there you can kind of see a pretty decent moisture bubble, a lot of dry air kind of trying to swirl in from the northwest. That's exactly why that banding's kind of really diminishing the convection there near Lesser Antilles. But a lot of that moisture off South America kind of helps the storm get its act together in a larger moisture bubble, and it just goes absolutely mental. I mean, if we're to get a moisture bubble like this and avoiding the Dominican Republic and Hispaniola, we would definitely be talking about a hurricane, but that's not what we're looking at, really. 10-meter winds. Let's see what they have for the actual wind forecast. Obviously, they got to as low as 972 millibars, so we will see what they have wind-wise. So let's actually get a look at the actual wind forecast for PTC6 here on the H4, or yeah, the H4 for sure. I don't know why I was about to say HWR. But looking at 997 millibars there near the Turks and Caicos, this is basically at 66 knots, which is basically just about 76, 75 miles an hour. So then it gets to 985 millibars, getting up to 74 knots. It's basically nearly just under 90 miles an hour. And then it gets to 81 knots, which is basically, what is it? Maybe, let's see, maybe around 95 miles an hour. And then it gets to 84 knots, 90 knots. So this is basically getting up to a Category 2 hurricane, which we all know is not going to happen. Actually, just really under a Category 3 hurricane, for being honest. Getting very awfully close to 111. So it's getting very awfully close to getting a major hurricane landfall for Florida, which obviously we know will not happen.